We're on.
Yeah, both your pairs of glasses.
All right.
Okay.
Hi there. Welcome. I'm in the back of Tim J. Leary Studios tonight, as usual. And I'm very excited. I'm very excited about everything that's going on. This month has been and is going to continue to be like full of art around Palm Springs. So Modernism Week, Desert X is all set up and going, and we're having our art walk tonight, and there's going to be an open studio event over the weekend on Saturday and Sunday. T and I will both be here in our workspaces at the gallery, so that you can come by and visit us and see what goes on behind the scenes. So that's the Desert Open Studios. If you check them out online, you will learn that there are some 67 artists involved. So there's a map. It's all across the Coachella Valley. There's even an exhibit going on in conjunction with this, which you can learn about on the website. So all of this stuff, I'm like, oh my God, so much art. I'm so excited. So, so I better calm down. I will start with my regular libation. So is Jameson tonight in my Jameson flask that I bought in Ireland. There we go. And that should be enough for tonight. I don't want to get carried away. So anyway, so tonight I want to talk about color. Nothing like picking a broad topic. So we'll start with cheers. So, you know, I even have a visiting artist in here tonight. Angelo Pietrantonio from San Francisco is here with his mannequin art, and it's very cool. So if you're in the area, you should come down and check it out. So it's now about 5. We're going to be here until 8 o'clock tonight, and all that. So, but anyway, back to my talk. I'm going to sit down. I want to talk about color. So nothing like picking like the broadest topic in the book. But color is really interesting. It's a big part of the work that I do. It's very important to the designs I create and so forth. It's something that has grown. My use of color has grown, and I love color. But I don't love a color. I love how colors go together and how they relate to one another. So, interesting thing about talking about color is that when I worked at FIDM in San Francisco, we had a faculty full of artists, but when they were asked to teach color theory, all of them knew color theory instinctively. They were always intimidated, I think, by the term theory. But so I still have, though, what was my favorite textbook. I took the plunge and I did teach color theory, and it was fun. But color it all depends on how you talk about it. There's no one single idea of what colors are. There are different ways color is created. There's color in pigments, and there is color in light, and they're created differently. So when you see something printed, I don't have any, do I have anything printed? You see something printed, it's made with RGB color, and that's how they do it. It's called subtractive. Then there's additive color. That's CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, black. Those are the 4 light colors that come together to give us color on a screen, and we see those constantly. So every student that takes color theory gets one of these nifty color wheels, and what this color wheel tells us, which some people argue about, is that there are 3 primary colors. Other people will say, well, that's not really true. But in terms of a system for mixing colors and comparing colors, it works. We'll say it works. But we'll say that it may not be the whole story. There are other ideas about color. So theories on color relationships, that's the thing that intrigues me. It's the color relationships. So there are a couple of different systems that are used to study and look at colors and values. We had this, I have another thing in the back too. We had this one design book that came through our school that was a fun book. It takes you about 20 minutes to read the whole thing. But this section on color is, there are warm colors and there are cool colors. So this is about design, right? Here are the cool colors. Cool colors are passive and retreat. So guess what the other one is? Oh, I must have missed a page. So warm colors advance. That's somewhere, one of these pages. It says warm colors advance. So there's some truth in that. That's the way they feel sometimes. Some of the things that I always enjoyed when I was teaching was these lessons about make sure I'm saying it right. I've made mistakes in the past. Transparency effects and this middle mixture here, which is the lesson being that this blue stripe here and that blue stripe there, they look different, but they're the same color. What's different about them is how they relate to the colors that are around them. So that to me is probably the center of what I think about in terms of how I pick colors and put them together. We could actually take a look at this painting that I'm working on over here a little bit for the same thing. So I want to pick out colors, you know, like this bright chartreuse and the aqua are really cool together. And the brown I think looks really delicious next to that. So that's part of the way that those things happen and develop for me. One of my friends, Teresa, if you're watching tonight, hello. She used to start her color theory class by asking the class, you know, what's the main thing you need in order to have color? And they'd all sit there, 18-year-old students, with these looks on their face like, I don't know. And then she'd turn out the lights. Without light, there's no color. So, so with that in mind, a little side note about how I approach this. I have a favorite Irish author who wrote essentially about Celtic spirituality. He was a philosopher and a former priest and a beautiful writer. So he is writing about the west of Ireland. West of Ireland is a very beautiful place, and it's a mountainous place, and there's some similarities to the mountains in the west of Ireland. There's a lot of rocky, you know, brown colors in addition to the green. It's Ireland, of course. But it's just like here, we have lots of light and play of light and shadow on our mountains because of the angles of how the sun rises and so forth. So this is what he says about light. I love the imagination of light. How gradually light will build a mood for the eye to discover something new in a familiar mountain. This glimpse serves to deepen the presence of the mountain and remind the eye that surface can be subtle and surprising. Gathered high in silence and stillness, the mountain is loaded with memory that no mind or word can reach. Light never shows the same mountain twice. Only the blindness of habit convinces us that we continue to live in the same place, that we see the same landscape. in truth, no place ever remains the same because light has no mind for repetition. It adores difference. Through its illuminations, it strives to suggest the silent depths that hide in the dark. What I think about that is, sometimes you see a cloud in the sky or something like that, and if you don't hurry up and capture it on your camera, it's gone. It goes away. And they never do come back exactly the same. Some of my stories about color, I know I've told this story before, that when I was an interior design student back in the day, I always did neutral tones in my projects, and the reason was I was afraid I would make a mistake if I used too bright a color. But my instructor, figured out what I was doing and came to me and said, "You always do things in neutral tones. Why don't you give me some color in the next project? Do color." And it ticked me off. Well, I thought, you want color? So I immediately went and I did an entire orange design because I thought orange would be the most shocking of colors and garish color, which of course I don't think that anymore. But of course, she taught me a really valuable lesson because the project was very successful, and she really liked it, gave me a good grade and all that. But the lesson that came from that was I should not be afraid. I should go ahead and give it a shot. And so that really started me on doing all that. But how do I use color? So here's a set of paintings I'm going to have at the Open Studio in another couple of days. A triptych. I don't know if that's the right order. It might be. It's not. Okay. I think it goes this way. Is that right? Still not sure. Anyway, and this is sort of like an explosion of color. I have two levels of things happening in a painting like this. The canvases are not gessoed, so I'm using a technique, a soak stain technique. I don't think I can say that I'm doing what Helen Frankenthaler did, my hero, who did absolutely fantastic canvases in this manner. But I learned a little bit about the colors, and one of the things that's interesting to me is how there's some of this you can't control, but when a color like this bleeds into another color, you get different colors that happen spontaneously. It happened there, it happens probably behind that, and happens over here. These different shades of the orange and the red, how they come together. In my technique, I then splatter on top of it. But I also know in this, I get one shot. The diluted paint soaks into the fibers, and it infiltrates it completely. It stays there, and it cannot be messed with, or it'll be muddy and horrible. So on top of that, though, I had a painting of similar colors that I had done on. It's this way. I know I shouldn't care, but I do. This is one painting, and I cut the pieces of stripe. I probably left out a few pieces, and but the colors are similar, and so but they're brighter, and so when I put them on top of that and sewed them onto the canvas, this is what I came up with. I just pulled this out the other day. I haven't looked at it in a while, and I'm going to put it on display for the Open Studio over the weekend. So pretty excited about that. Now, I thought it would make sense, since I have my lovely books, to take a look at what some other artists have done, some famous artists have done with color. So Jackson Pollock, you know, I always do this, like, known for his splattering of paint. It's not the only thing he ever did in his life, but that's what made him famous. Some of his canvases are bland or neutral or just black and white, but some of them are a little more vibrant than that. So to me, what's interesting about looking at that one, I'm going to save that page, and if I can turn the page, there's another one nearby, is that they create, the colors he chooses create a mood. And I think that, now, see if I can't find it in a second, I'll skip it. There was one in particular, but this is another example. He's, where is it? Oh, here it is. This one, the blues and the greens. It's really sweet. And I think when he started these, according to this book actually, when he started some of this work, he would have some images and figures in his mind that would then be obscured by all of this. So, you know, the trick is not to find them. It's not that. He's not painting pictures of things. But sometimes these images are part of his inspiration as he works. So it's all in the process. I think one of the reasons why people are afraid to talk about color is because it's not a verbal thing necessarily. There was an argument once at FIDM about whether we think first in words or first in images. And the answer to that is the artist thinks in images and the academic thinks in words. And I always remember that, because when I'm working on something, working on a project, I'm not thinking in words. They come later. I can talk about things later. But if I'm in the art process, I'm thinking in terms of images and feelings and that sort of thing. So that, I would bet that Jackson Pollock had that kind of experience. Andy Warhol is somebody, maybe a little obvious to think about it, but he exploited color, and he did it beautifully. He took an image like this Marilyn. She's all in the news in Palm Springs these days. And he did several iterations of her in all kinds of various colors. When several of these, 9 or 12 of these, were displayed at the Palm Springs Art Museum, the conversation was always that in the gray one, you know, was she depressed? Was he depicting depression? My guess is probably not, but if that's where we go, that's what it is for us. So for the viewer, if that's where that takes you, then it's valid and legitimate, but it may not be what the artist had in mind, and maybe that doesn't matter in those moments. So these are another one. So some of these unlikely colors would pop up, and my guess for this, and I never met Andy Warhol to talk to him about it, but it looks to me like he did it for the sake of the colors. Here's some more really cool, outrageous color examples. I don't think these are from photographs, although this one looks like it could be, but I doubt it. What have I got here? Oh, some more outrageous colors. These are fun. I like the frog a lot. Why do I like the frog? I like the frog because I like the colors, and I think that this green pops out for me, probably because it's against that purple branch, and looks rather fun next to the red-orange frog face. So, and that's as simple as I'm going to get. There was a series of these as well in that exhibit at the Palm Springs Art Museum. He did these for a motel or a hotel, And there were many iterations in many colors. Everyone was for a different room, and the hotel eventually didn't want them anymore, silly kids. I brought the David Hockney book because he loved color too. David Hockney, famous for paintings of swimming pools in the 60s. He grew up in England and came to California. He was fascinated by that, so lots of bright colors, which a lot of the 60s design, architectural design, fashion design, and so forth, were bright and bold colors, and so that appeared in his paintings. He continued to do this. So this is a series of canvases, and I believe they're oil on canvas. So bright colors that are not necessarily reflecting nature. They might be suggesting it, but these are not necessarily the colors that he would have seen. He's suggesting them in his style of painting. But then let me look through this for a second here. I believe I've shown this before, but I was fascinated by this. Van Gogh did a series of the potato eaters. They were village people. I don't want to say village people, but they lived in villages, I guess. But they were workers. They worked the land. This one in particular is good, but the entire series is done in these drab colors. And the drab colors help me get a feel for what their life might have been like, or at least what Van Gogh's experience of meeting them was like. It's not very colorful. It's pretty drab. It's kind of dark. There's light, but not a lot of it. And they also have sort of dour and sad expressions. Looks like maybe they had a hard life. And that is how he's depicting that. And he's using color, intentionally or not, using color as a way of communicating that. I brought this book because Hiroshiga, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, 19th century woodblock artist in Tokyo, did all of these. And as I flipped through, if I were to flip through the entire book, which I wasn't going to do, there are lots of blues. So here's something else that can happen with color. See this vibrant blue that's in here? That color of ink was developed in his lifetime. And so in Japan during that period of time, a lot of these artists like Hokusai, who did the famous wave image that you have probably seen, probably the most popular of those images, they're done with these blues, and the blue was a new discovery for them. So it's actually one of the ways that art, what are they? Art critics? No. Art curators, not curators either, but they're people who are investigating forgery. One of the ways they can do that is by different colors. Like we're using a white, which I use, which I'll use on this painting, hopefully next week. The white part is the color of the gesso. It's very white. But there's another white called titanium white, that's a bright white, that I will put on top of that to kind of bring it out a little bit. It'll be subtle, but titanium white is a relatively new color. So if they find titanium white on some old painting, they can know it's a forgery. I brought Rothko because Rothko really does the mood thing with this. His work is seen as very spiritual. He saw it as spiritual. He did a chapel in Houston, which is still there, the Rothko Chapel, and he selected his colors to create moods. I know I've shown this before and I've said it before. It's hard to tell in these pictures what this work really looks like, but in real life, there's a luminescence about the work because he did many, many layers of thin coats of paint, one over the other. So in real life, you can see these blurred edges are really blurry because there are several layers of paint in one spot. So I like these, bright and cheerful. He did a series for the Seagram's building in New York, and these were some of the murals that he did. I don't think they were ever installed. He got angry at the way they were going to be used, and so he withdrew himself from the contract and returned the money. The canvases eventually went somewhere else. So in a way, he didn't really lose out. Here's some more. I saved this page because I think this somber color. And so why is that somber? Because it's dark? Maybe. Maybe that's what makes it look somber. And is that just my interpretation? Maybe. Maybe someone else in a fashion photo shoot would find this to be a hot color. We interpret colors from wherever we are. There's no universal things. The bride is always wearing white, but that's only true in this part of the world. In Asia, the bride wears red. So our use of color, our prejudices or ideas about color are often cultural. And so there is no constant. The pink and the blue for boys and girls was once reversed because pink is derivative of red. It's an aggressive color. So it was considered the boys' color at one time. And soft blue, the lovely feminine girls' color. Somehow we changed our mind about that. And so if you have a baby, don't expect a pink or a blue gift from me. I won't do it. So I think that sums it up. That pretty much I think can give you an idea of where I'm at. What I thought might be fun would be to take a walk and see what's happening out in the gallery. Get my mask. I'll come. Don't worry. I'll finish the whiskey later. Yeah, we're starting out tonight, so come on out and let's see what's happening out here.
I need my mask.
I see someone I know over here.
Oh, yeah.
We have some activity going on. My Mackey's over here. Hi. How are you? So that's my story. So thanks for tuning in. And we're going to see you soon. I know. How are you? Good. How'd it go? Good. We're finishing up.